that's enough from me. We are going to transition over to our first speaker for this week. Max Sprinkle is someone who found 1 million cups and has consistently been showing up, providing great feedback. And he's been incubating an idea and is now getting to the point where he's ready to share it with us so that we can then evangelize what he's working on. So Max, without further ado, we want to welcome you up.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay. So, ClerkUp. ClerkUp. ClerkUp is a simple expression that says to clerk up. What it does is it rewrites the story of David and Goliath, David versus Goliath. And that story is about the little guy taking on a giant and with inadequate resources somehow finding a way to triumph. That story is fitting for the story of pretty much every superstar lawyer who you've heard of. Even movies have been made about it. The story goes that some corporation is poisoning a water system or some part of some community, and then a new inexperienced lawyer with maybe one employee finds a way to defeat the huge law firms and triumph against the major corporation. That has been the narrative of small law firms. Not 1 million cups. ClerkUp, through 1 million cups partially, is trying to change that narrative. So if anyone out here is a screenwriter and you're coming up with a movie that's based on that, I have to apologize. For legal service professionals, ClerkUp is a way to have an extended interview with many law firms and actually get paid for interviewing. Clerk, again, simple word. From dictionary.com, the first definition that pops up is that it's a person employed in an office. So in a law firm setting, a legal secretary, pretty much all of these support staff, except for the attorneys. And in some cases, people who are licensed attorneys are clerks for judges, for courts. There are law clerks when you're in law school. Law clerk is what everybody wants to be. You want to kind of apprentice under attorneys and learn what's going on. And of course, I don't have to explain up because that just means to do it more or to do it better or to increase something by doing it. And so the small law firm. This is what ClerkUp is all about. This actually happens to be my law office, and nice, quaint, romantic little thing. People like to have those in their communities, and attorneys like to stay in communities, but there are disadvantages to doing that and to being small, being in a small community. So to really understand the story behind ClerkUp, first you've got to understand the competition, understand what's out there now. And so this line represents kind of a continuum of comfort and effectiveness, or comfort and ease with which law firms operate with regard to finding staff and to supporting the work that they're doing for clients. On one end is tradition, the other end is wild and free imagination. And there are competitors that exist at both ends right now. On the traditional end, that's where most law firms operate. That is going through a resume book, going to on-campus interviews, or somebody like me walking in a law office with my resume and asking them to interview me and give me a shot. that's where most law firms are comfortable, and that works for big law firms. For small law firms, it works less well. On the other end, there is the wild imagination. There are competitors there also. There are places like Elance and Freelancer.com, all of the freelancer websites. Thing is, law firms don't use them much, and they all have a category of legal services. However, law firms don't use them much because most law firms are in the traditional paradigm, and so they have specific security concerns that not everybody has. And so dealing with someone who you just met on a website in some far-flung place of the world just wouldn't work for a lot of law firms getting things done that are usually local in nature. The law practice is a state-by-state thing, and also there's sensitive client data that you might just not trust to someone who you don't even know is a real person in some place that you might not know exists. And so there are people in that space. In the middle space, which is the green area, this is red because law firms don't want to be there. The other part is black because they're there and they've been there, and they're comfortable there, but there's no progress there. And so then there's a green area in the middle. And in that area, for some years, freelancers have been kind of rising up in the legal field. And there are websites that allow that. So there's Craigslist, there are job board sites that are kind of, Craigslist may be closer to the imagination end because most law firms are not really going to deal with that. But then there are job boards and other things that are closer to the tradition end. And so the question is not really about whether freelancers are going to change the legal field. They already are. There's lots of literature talking about it, and there are organizations trying to do it. The question is really where on this continuum can someone else exist? And that is where the solution is well positioned for somebody who is kind of a fence straddler. You know, somebody who likes Obama, but at the same time isn't that mad about Asa. And that person happens to be maybe me. Before I became an attorney, I went to law school at the ripe old age of 30. And before that, I was all old school entrepreneur, open up a shop on Main Street type of entrepreneur, which I did in undergrad in Pine Bluff. I opened up a restaurant in the mall that lasted for a short time, and then I opened up a shop on Main Street in Pine Bluff and sold women's clothes and other items. That eventually grew into, and we opened a second store here in Little Rock that was many times the size of the first store, which was a problem because that happened right around mid to late 2008 when the bottom fell out of everything. And so I took the LSAT and went to law school. In law school, I couldn't play around with traditional business. I couldn't open a shop on Main Street and do my work, and so I messed around with technology. I found Elance and those types of things and played around with WordPress sites and just found ways to kind of tickle the entrepreneurial itch while still being able to do the main thing. When I was in law school, I always imagined that I would be doing it to help small entrepreneurs who couldn't afford attorneys like I was. I didn't really imagine that the entrepreneurs I'd be helping would be small attorneys. However, once I graduated and the firm I was at closed their doors in Arkansas, I opened up my own shop. And one of the things that stood out was this problem of the tradition and imagination. There were the traditional ways that people got staff, and small law firms pretty much didn't do it. They just didn't have staff generally. and that created a distinct advantage, a distinct disadvantage and advantage for the big law firms, hence the David and Goliath scenario. Small law firms pretty much can't compete with big law firms because they don't have the staff to do it. They don't have law clerks, they don't have other clerical professionals by and large, and if they do, it's a very limited amount. I didn't have any staff. However, sometimes I had a project that needed to get done, and so it just kind of begged the question, where can I go to get staff? Where can I can't go to Elance, although I know Elance exists, because there's probably nobody local on Elance, and it's not designed specifically for that type of thing. At the same time, I couldn't go out and hire somebody to sit in the office all day paying them $20 an hour, because then, you know, we would all be out of the office within a month or so if we last that long. And so I called friends who were in law school who I knew needed a job or didn't have a job, and I, you know, give them some money to do a project. And the question came, well, can this be automated? Which is the question for ClerkUp. The question for ClerkUp is not, you know, are freelancers going to happen? It's, can it be automated? That automation happens somewhere between tradition and less automated than the imagination. And so, you can click that. So, ClerkUp was invented to address that problem. It was a little surprising to me that there was nowhere online that I could find, and I'm a pretty good Googler, where law firms, small law firms, could find legal professionals to help out just for a project. You know, I may not be able to have somebody sitting there for $20 an hour, but I may be able to pay somebody for a specific project. ClerkUp was designed to do that. This is the basic site now. It's almost ready for a beta launch, just to kind of get some law firms on it and test it out. It's divided into categories. It has various user types, from legal professionals to law clerks to attorneys to law firms that have different functionality or different abilities. Go ahead, click to well, click Find Work. And this is the automation that I think is in the appropriate green space, where if I need something done, I can post it like you would do on Elance, but it's not as wild and free as those types of freelancer sites. And then people who are legal professionals can, if they're interested, they can select that product and post a proposal. We both compare our budgets. There's a way you can do a little negotiation process and sign non-disclosure agreements and all those types of things. And hopefully it takes it beyond the lists and the job board sites, makes it more automatic and self-selecting than that, but it's less wild and free than some of the other ways. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so this is a project form. The way the site is now, how it's filled out, just really simple for a law firm. A lot easier than wading through bunches of resumes. You post the title, you post what you need, you put it in a category, tell what skills. There's a way to limit it to only law clerks or only attorneys, and then you do the budget, the price, whether it has to be done in your office or it can be done remotely, and you submit. This is how the legal professionals apply to the project. They tell how much they can do it for, how long it'll take them, and they bid. And this is a freelancer profile, the basics of a freelancer profile. The solutions that ClerkUp provides are two solutions. One is the automation question. What is the appropriate level of automation in that green space? The other one is an information question. and that is, you know, getting better information about potential hires. The automation question is one that is really relevant to small law firms. However, ClerkUp goes beyond small law firms, because once small law firms are using it, and then all of the clerical professionals are using it, well then, even for big law firms, government agencies, corporations that hire legal professionals, this ClerkUp will deliver better information than a resume book, better information than a headhunter even. And so for the bigger institutions, the information question is the solution that ClerkUp provides. And this is the last slide. I see one of my fonts didn't translate. But the question for ClerkUp, ClerkUp is basically part of a legal services revolution. And there's a rhetorical question for Arkansas legal professionals, and that is, what would happen if we all came together and joined the revolution? In Arkansas, there are 5,953 lawyers licensed in Arkansas. There are lots of legal professionals, about 800 law students, and the reality is that together, that is the biggest law firm in the world. Therefore, it kind of takes away the David and Goliath story if ClerkUp works. Now, any law firm can be part of the biggest law firm in the world. So there's not that fight with inadequate resources or the fight where you're at a disadvantage. It levels the playing field for everybody. That's it.